Hi everyone, it's your favorite MLB newsbreaker, Bob Nightingale, and you're listening to the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. Enjoy the show, and thank God for Jeffrey Springs.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. I am your host, Zang, and joined again by my wonderful, intrepid co-host, Ace. We're 2 weeks into the season. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. 2-0. Pod Squad is 2-0, along with the former champion, or the reigning champion, I should say, in Mike. So yeah, things are looking up for the pod.
Yeah, not bad company for the two of us, you know? Couple of nice podcasters, and then, yeah, as you said, reigning champion in Mike. So, as those of you in football will remember, I cannot get too high because I started 3-0 there, and then basically I think literally didn't win another game. Maybe I won one more, but so not too high, not too low, just stay nice and steady. But like you, I'm feeling pretty good coming into this week. Should be a good set of matchups to recap. We will get started as we always do in the matchup minute. Our first matchup is sort of the battle of the expansion teams. It is the Sault Ste. Marie Locks who are taking on the Arctic Real Survivors. Sault Ste. Marie came in 1-0 with the Real Survivors coming in 0-1, having lost their first matchup of the week. Relatively slow start on that first day for both teams, 34-56, but the Real Survivors did take that lead early on, although they scored higher on Tuesday with Casey Mize's 28 points and Jung Hoo Lee's 11. The Real Survivors would hold the lead with their 65 points, 36 of those coming from Max Fried. Men love to see that as a Yankee. Noah Cameron racked up 22, which contributed to the Arctic's 71 points that helped them hold the lead through Wednesday. Another 19 from Reynaldo Lopez made up for almost all of the 25 points that the Arctic scored as they held their lead again through Thursday. Friday was the day when we kind of saw things get all wrapped up. Although 26 points from Sonny Gray was a nice addition, made up for exactly half of the 52 points that Sault Ste. Marie scored on that Friday. The Real Survivors put up 112 points, 13 of those coming from Bryce Harper, 28 from Grant Holmes, and 33 from Aaron Nola, who's had a great start to the season after a pretty rough 2025. A close day on Saturday, but obviously not quite enough to make up a difference there. 76-78. A really nice start with 37 points from Jesus Luzardo over in the Arctic. And they would quietly wrap things up 45-70. CJ Kafis put up 14 points for the Locks, and Max Fried another 21 for the Arctic Real Survivors, but it would be a wire-to-wire win for Min, racking up his first of the season as we saw the Arctic Real Survivors defeat the Sault Ste. Marie Locks 477-318. It was the biggest blowout of the week with 159 points separating the two of them.
Yeah, and the biggest reason for that blowout is you just look no further than the pitching matchup. For St. Sault Marie, only 154 points combined from all their pitching. When you look at Arctic Real, they had 275. So that was obviously the biggest discrepancy there. About 30-point difference in the batters, but, you kind of take that. You hope your pitching can make up for it. And just some really disappointing performances from some of the starting pitchers. Zach Littell with only 3 points. He took the loss. David Peterson had -1 points. He took the loss. Justin Verlander had -5 points. He took a loss. So really, Casey Mize was the only pitcher. Brandon Pfaadt and Sonny Gray actually contributed nicely as well. But yeah, just no help at all from the starting pitching staff of St. Sault Marie. And as we've said, and we said it all last year, if you don't have as it is true in regular baseball as well, if you do not have a starting pitching staff, you will not go far.
Yeah, we all kind of came into this year as a little bit of a mystery. We obviously adjusted the way batters are scored a little bit. I think we kept pitching almost exactly the same. There might have been just one little tweak in there, but batters were definitely buffed a little bit. And I think a lot of us were kind of coming in wondering, hey, how much is that buff going to flip the script that pitching does rule the league? And 2 weeks in, it does feel more balanced, certainly, but that script ain't flipped yet. You need the pitching to get across. In this case, Arctic Real Survivors had the pitching. Max Fried with 58 points.
Swung on and
Was
missed.
our number one most potent pitcher of the week. He also got 39 from Xavier Edwards as his best batter. Over on the other side, we kind of saw the story of the matchup. As you said, just kind of disappointing pitching starts from Sault Ste. Marie. Steven Matz, we love Steven Matz, but 33 points for your best pitcher and a guy that's just moved back to the rotation. Then a nice 22 from Gleyber Torres, which is always nice, of course, for KJ as a Tigers fan. But Fried's 58 were really the story of this matchup. The pitchers just balled out on Min's side, and he ended up taking away the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. Min starts the villain arc now.
Here he comes. Moving on to matchup number 2, we do have the St. Petersburg Tropopologists going up against the Joinville Capybaras, who entered 0-1 and 1-0 respectively. Obviously, as we know, a bit of a disappointing first week in St. Pete, and Joinville did get out for that first win, and they started off with a bang. This was one of the premium matchups to keep an eye on, and it certainly just didn't disappoint on Monday, as both teams put up over 100 points, 102 on St. Pete's side and 101 on Joinville's side. St. Pete had Clay Holmes and Luis Castillo put up 19 and 31 points, so a couple nice starts there. Over on the other side, we also saw some starting pitching carry the load, with Chris Bubich putting up 27 and Edward Cabrera putting up 34 in his new team with the Cubs. Joinville would take the lead on Tuesday as they scored 81 points to the 56 scored over in St. Pete. 34 for Hunter Brown in what looks like it'll be his last start in St. Petersburg for a while, and 23 from Senga over on Joinville's side. But on Wednesday, St. Pete would pull the lead back, scoring 66 points to just 27 over on the other side. 22 of those came from Skeens, 23 from Scooble, and 15 from Otto Lopez. Thursday was a very quiet day on both accounts. You'll see that across the league this week in particular. Very few games on Thursday. 0 scored from St. Pete and 7 from Joinville. That wouldn't be enough to pull the lead away just yet. And on Friday, although he was outscored 35-40, Prius with his Tropopologist did hold the lead. Kind of a funny little anomaly here. 3 different guys all scored exactly 8 points. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Zach Neto, and Carter Jensen. After waking up from his alarm, they all racked up 8 points. Emerson Hancock, newly added, also got 24, and Clay Holmes with another 34 points in this case. Saturday, we saw another one of those huge days from the St. Petersburg Tropopologists as they put up 123 points. This was the day where we saw those 3 guys with 8 points, and then, of course, Hancock and Holmes. Quiet day on JVL's side, just 30 points there. No one in particular that kind of stood out from that group. And we saw on Sunday, St. Pete kind of ram home their victory with their third 100-plus point day of the week. Brent Rooker put up 23 points on this day, Jesus. And Braxton Ashcraft put up 33. Over on the other side, JVL didn't go quietly. They put up 116 points of their own. Machado with 12, Senga with another 19, and Edward Cabrera with 21. Altogether, that was 5 days, individual days between the two of them, scoring over 100 points. So the score was high. And St. Pete, after taking that lead back on Wednesday, did hold it through the end of the week. They won 501-402.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a hell of a matchup.
Yeah.
I also just want to take this time to say I absolutely love the change of making each team have to have a city and like an actual team name. I love the creativity that everybody has brought to this. I never even knew what a tropopologist was until till this season. So you learn something new every day, and I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. Love the team names.
Yeah.
As far as who I wanted to highlight in this matchup, again, pitching staff proving to be the deciding factor here. Over 300 points of St. Petersburg. 500 were from the pitching staff. And I want to highlight Braxton Ashcraft here because he has put together back-to-back very solid, great outings, obviously back-to-back quality starts to start off the year. And if he can be reliable starting pitcher. I mean, almost 50, 49 points in his 2 starts he had this week. If he can be that at the relief pitcher spot, is going to be a huge, huge addition for the Tropopologists, because having a bona fide starter like that who came into the year as a relief pitcher, as we talked about, everybody, whatever position you came into the year having is the position you'll remain with. So having essentially another starting pitching spot on his roster is definitely going to improve this team. And, to back it up, with some other bona fide names, like obviously Hunter Brown going down with an injury is massive. We'll see, when he comes back, but he still has Luis Castillo, Clay Holmes, obviously Skubal, Skeens. We all expect to find it at some point this year. We don't think he's going to be as bad as he's been. But yeah, this is just once again for Flaming, just a ridiculous pitching staff.
Yeah,
and we'll get to some additions he made to it as well in the waivers.
I know it got even better on the waivers. Last week when Flaming Prius scored just under 150 points, I said, "Don't worry, this team's going to be fine." This team's already fine. Yeah, I mean, over 500 points. I believe the second most scored in total this week. And yeah, we saw the formula that we saw
first.
Yeah, I know. Who could that possibly be? We saw the formula that has made St. Petersburg so good, basically through all of last year. Yes, they did finish 6th in the standings, but obviously they ended up making it to the finals. So
right.
It's a great pitching staff and a lineup that is out there every day. I think Prius only has maybe 1 or 2 guys on his bench because the rest is going to pitching. He's maxing out those 10 plus starts every week. And the guys he has in the lineup post every day, and they put up good numbers most of the time. You're not seeing a lot of variability there, and it just kind of all comes together. All in all, we haven't talked about them much, but a tough week for the friendly Capybaras. Obviously a really, really impressive performance from Hideki's squad, particularly on the pitching side. Some great stuff we saw there. He did actually have a potent pitcher, Edward Cabrera, with 53 points. He ranked as the number 2 potent pitcher. Manny Machado with 22 points was his best batter. On St. Petersburg side, Brent Rooker, like I say, he scored 23 points on Sunday. 25 points was the highest total for the Tropopologists. But hey, if you get it done, you get it done. And Clay Holmes with 53 points was the number 4 ranked potent pitcher. So solid performance as well from JVL out in Joinville. I don't think that this team is facing any kind of a crisis. Again, they put up 2 different days where they put up over 100 points. It just so happened that Flaming Prius put up 3 different days where they put up over 100 points. So
and I think it should be noted too that Joinville did have 2 extra starts going into this, so this really is like a pretty statement win here for Flaming.
Yeah.
Kind of another little fun note too. You don't really see this too often. It's really hard to get it down to the exact point inning, but both of these guys had exactly 79.1 innings pitched between their entire pitching staffs. So I thought that was just really kind of not weird, but kind of like it was a very even matchup in terms of that, even with Joinville, like I mentioned, having those 2 extra starts. But just looking at the numbers, I mean, you see the difference right there. Joinville gave up 34 earned runs to only 22 for St. Petersburg, 38 walks to St. Petersburg's 27. So the numbers have it right there. Everything else is pretty close. But yeah, it's just like we mentioned, the pitching staffs, man, they will make you or break you.
Yeah, that's super cool that they had the exact same. Yeah, kind of a good look at the quality of the pitchers that they have, because you got the same innings. What are you getting out of it? And obviously, St. Pete outscored there. We will slide down to our next matchup. This is number 3, where we saw the Valley Gift Lords face off against the Seoul Sovereigns. This was the battle of, this was one of our 2 teams entering at 0-1, so both looking for their first win of the season. Things got started very close on Monday. 44 points in the Valley, 45 in Seoul. 21 of those 44 did come from Kyle Harrison for Al Martinet's team, and 11 came from Nico Horner over on Inten's side. Obviously, with that 1-point lead going in, Al Martinet didn't need much to pull the lead away. 26 points from Andrew Painter in his major league debut contributed to the 32 total scored in the Valley on that day, with just 19 over on the other side. The Valley did take the lead on on Tuesday, but they lose it on Wednesday as they scored just 15 to the 66 scored over on the Sovereign side. Nico Horner, 10 points, and Cade Cavalli with 20. Nice to see him getting a good start out in Washington. Although the Valley did win the day on Thursday, they did not retake the lead. All 28 of their points came from Taj Bradley, while the Sovereigns had 17 points coming from a collection of guys on that quiet day. Just shy of that century mark on Friday, the Sovereigns scored 97 points, 21 of them coming from Keller, 23 from Mackenzie Gore, and 24 from Nolan McLean. 65 points over on the other side, 10 from Soderstrom and 20 from Boyle. Would not be enough to pull it away, and the Sovereigns would hold it through the end of Saturday as well, as they scored 64 points, but the Valley crept ever closer, scoring 87 on the penultimate day of the matchup. 10 of those coming from Murakami. We should talk about that guy a little bit.
He's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, he's pretty good. Looks like we were onto something this summer. Things were incredibly close coming into one of the last games of the day on Sunday. Obviously, we know Al Martinet has, I was joking around with the Oops All AL West guys. They had, I believe, 7 or 8 different players in the Astros versus Athletics matchup. They needed just 8 points after the game went into extra innings, but the total of 13 points from Tyler Soderstrom would not be quite enough, as we saw the Soul Sovereigns squeak out with a 12-point win, 379 to 367.
Yeah, like we mentioned, this was just an amazing game from start to finish. Very close all the way through. Both teams really underperforming in terms of what their projected scores were going into the week. Valley Gift Lords projected 446. Soul Sovereigns projected 469. So although Soul, came through in terms of being predicted to win, both of these teams fell incredibly short of their projections there. And for this one, I really wanted to highlight the batters. We've been talking a lot about pitching staffs and how they've been contributing to the wins here. But I think this is, highlighting the batters, but in a way kind of also just showing again how important the pitching staff is. Valley Gift Lords had over 30 more at-bats than Soul Sovereigns did, 250 at-bats to 217 for the Soul Sovereigns. And although they, out-hit them, albeit only by 6 with 30 more at-bats, Soul Sovereigns really hit in some key categories. 5 game-winning RBIs to only 2 for the Valley Gift Lords, 6 home runs to only 3 for the Valley Gift Lords, and only 60 strikeouts compared to 72 from the Valley Gift Lords. And we know, as you talked about, strikeouts, for the batters, obviously the minus amount has gone down this season. I believe, what was it, minus 1.2 or 1.4?
It was 1.2 last season. It's just -1 now.
Just
so yeah.
-1 now, yeah. So small difference, but still, when you add up, that's 12 more strikeouts. That's
exactly,
about 10 points there worth of, or sorry, not 10 points worth, but about a couple points there worth. And in games like this where it's only an 11-point difference, those things are incredibly key. So just wanted to highlight that. I thought it was a really solid showing from both these teams, albeit not quite meeting up to those projections, but hey man, that Jacob Wilson guy, whew, he's something, huh?
Pretty good, huh? Yeah,
he's pretty good.
We obviously talked during the Gift Lords PSP about how this team is really built around their lineup, and I think you saw that very much in this matchup, how many points they did get from the lineup. It also, I think, was a little bit of a show into the pitfalls that can come through having so many players from one team. Obviously, the Gift Lords have Max Muncy, not that one.
Not that
one. Nick Kurtz, Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson, and I'm forgetting an athletic. There's one more athletic on that team. So, I think 5 guys in their, batters are on the Athletics, and when that team's going well, obviously
Sean Murphy. I'm lying.
He doesn't have Langoliers anymore. I think that might be what I'm thinking of, because he did have Langoliers and I traded for him. But yeah. So I think it's just those 4. But in any case, when that team is going well, I think we see how successful the Gift Lords can be. And when they're on kind of a skid like they are now, we see how the formula can kind of fall apart. I love to see Andrew Painter getting 26 points in his major league debut. That is so great. This is a guy who, again, I described during the PSP, like he was long considered sort of the perfect pitching prospect, like what people always said about him, and I love this. They said he has he's a pitcher with a thrower's arm. Like, he just had all the pitchability you wanted to see, but he had unbelievable stuff and definitely struggled in the minors for years. But he's made it back, man, and that's awesome. And sometimes once you get up to the major leagues, if you put it together and do it, that's all you need. So it's pretty cool to see. And I know obviously out in the Valley, they are counting on him to put out some pretty good innings. So it is a good start.
Yeah, especially because he was a part of the massive trade that took place kind of after the season kicked off. Obviously Yamamoto, James Woods acquired in that trade. It was a pretty big one, all things considered. So if, obviously trading away an ace like Yamamoto, somebody who a lot of people consider to being kind of like that Cy Young contention every year. If you can get something, if Painter ends up being, like you mentioned, obviously there is no perfect pitching prospect, but if he, comes out and balls, it's going to make that trade look so much more worth it. Like, James Wood had a really solid showing this past week as well with 19 points. So, I mean, yeah, and like you mentioned, it's very athletics heavy. He does have also Luis Severino for what it's worth, so maybe that might have been the other.
That might have been who I was thinking of. Yeah,
he is on the pitching staff, but yeah, like you mentioned, still you're kind of putting a lot of your eggs into one team's basket. It could pay off depending on how that team looks, and when they're hot, it's great, and when they're not, it's really not.
Yeah, exactly. This was, for what it's worth, one more note on this matchup. It was the fewest points in a win. So, one of the things I love about matchup leagues is that there's some randomness to it. It's not just how many points do you score over the season. Like in 10, got lucky in this case where he, matched up with obviously lower points than any of the other winners, but he matched up against somebody where his points were enough to win and squeaks away with another win. So he's now 1-1 on the season, with the Gift Lords falling to 0-2. They'll be looking for that first win next week in a matchup I'm looking forward to previewing. We will slide down to number 4, though, as we will see the Portland Pioneers take on the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes. Things got started on Monday with 56 in Portland and 30 in Kansas. Lindor had 8 and Tobias Myers had 12 over on my side. On Tuesday, Southwest Kansas would outscore the Portland Pioneers 60-55. 18 of those points coming from O'Neal Cruz for the Coyotes. Over on the Pioneers side, we saw Bubba Chandler put up 18 and Brandon Woodruff with 20. But the big day in Portland would come on Wednesday. 138 points. Holy Toledo. 13 coming from Durang, 23 from Drew Rasmussen, 29 from Zach Gallen, and 51 from Sandy Alcantara. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this. Not too shabby. Another 12 from Cruz and 23 from Trevor Rogers at the end there on the other side. But even, when you're putting up 87, when 138 are going up on the other side, that is tough to beat. As we mentioned, slow day on Thursday, just 10-17 for Portland and Kansas. On Friday, we saw it go 66 for Portland, 52 for Kansas. Marcelo Meyer and Kyle Tucker both put up 13 points for the Pioneers, while Gunnar put up 14 in kind of a nice little resurgence after a slow start for the Rabid Coyotes. Saturday was a relatively quiet day, 43-22, and both teams did kind of limp across the finish line, 48-23. Quiet end to the weekend in both cases. We did see Willier put up 13 points, obviously for the hometown Pioneers, and O'Neal Cruz with 14. Another high-scoring effort for the Coyotes, but they would fall to the Pioneers 416-291, 125 points separating the two of them as the Portland Pioneers move to 0-2, with the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes moving to 0-2, with the Pioneers moving to 2-0.
Yeah, this was again. I feel like a broken record, but the pitching, man, is the difference in this matchup once again. I mean, only 103 points from the pitching staff of the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes. I mean, that's just unfortunately that's just never going to be enough. 100 points from the pitching staff is a rough way to go about it. And I mean, with only 7 starts, granted, neither of these teams, I thought that was pretty interesting. Neither of these teams hit that maximum start
Yeah.
of 10 threshold. Obviously, Portland Pioneers had 9, the Rabbit Coyotes had 7. And I mean, that's ultimately where the biggest discrepancy was, 235 to 103. I mean, you're going to need a Hall of Fame performance from your entire lineup to compete with that. And although he did have just under 200 points from the hitting staff, it just wasn't going to be enough. And a couple of guys really kind of with disappointing weeks. Joey Weimer, somebody who started the season, I just found this out as well, heard it on the broadcast because the Nationals are playing the Dodgers today. Joey Weimer started this season with his first 10 plate appearances reaching safely, and he tied a record. I forgot who it was, but it was in 2002. So I'm blanking on the name about the guy who he tied. I want to say his first name was Carlos. Could totally be wrong about that. When you guys are listening to this, put it in the Discord if anybody knows who that was. But yeah, start off the season really hot and just has kind of cooled off since then. Only 4 at-bats, so really kind of finding a struggle, finding a difficulty, getting some consistent play. And I feel like, damn, after starting the season 10, reaching safely 10 in a row, I feel like that would be kind of worthy of getting you some more playing time, but I guess I don't know what else he needs to do. And then if I'm him, I'm going to the manager like, yo, what the fuck else do I need to do? What else do you want me to do? But yeah, and then I mean, just looking at the pitching staff, -8 from Christian Javier, a brutal one there from him. 5 walks in that, only 3.2 innings pitched. Obviously took the L with 6 earned runs allowed. Brian Abreu, -1. A lot of negatives. Myself, I only put up -1.4. Sorry, Rabbit Coyote. Yeah. Sorry I couldn't do more for you there.
What are you doing, man? Come on.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I took an L, but what more do you want from me?
It was all in the L. Yeah, and honestly, it's sad to say for the Coyotes, things are not looking up in terms of the pitching staff. That Cade Horton injury is a big one. I know Oki Sooner was definitely counting on him to kind of continue to take that step forward as a real ace in the Cubs rotation. And the 2 scariest words you can hear from a pitcher are forearm tightness. That is what he left with. Obviously, nothing yet, so we're not sure, but it certainly seems like he'll be shelved for a while. The Joey Weimer thing is tricky. Obviously, he started so hot, and we actually saw Oki bid $25 in free agency acquisition budget on him. And so then, of course, to see him go -2 on the week has got to be pretty frustrating after that start. Shout out O'Neal Cruz, dude. After like the worst opening day anyone has ever had. Probably not. I'm sure somebody has had a worse one, but it really felt like it watching that game. 45 points on the week. Great work from him. And I think I am such a believer in rising tides lifting all ships. And I think as things continue to get better in Pittsburgh, we might finally kind of see that ceiling we've always dreamt on for him. Over in Portland, it's the story has kind of been the offseason acquisitions or reacquisitions in the case of one. Terang was an acquisition. He was the Portland Pioneers' highest batter for the week with 34 points. Wilyer Abreu with 27 reacquired was really great there. I guess the big story I would say in Portland was the Sandy Alcantara start. With 51 points, he was, of course, one of our potent pitchers. He was ranked at number 5, but of course the caveat to that is all 4 of the guys ahead of him had 2 starts each. Sandy did all of that in just 1 start. So everything I could have hoped for and more. To be perfectly transparent, I got a lot of offers, many of them lowballs for Sandy in the offseason. Actually, a few of them quite good offers. And I turned them all down in hopes that we might see something like this. And 2 starts into the season, he has put up, I believe, 34 and 51 points in starts 1 and 2. Let me just double check those numbers. Yeah, 34 and 51. So things have obviously looked great. As I did mention, O'Neal Cruz with those 45. That was Southwest Kansas' best batter. And Trevor Rogers with 23 continues to be great for that team as they put up 23 points as the best pitcher.
Oh, man.
Let's slide on down to Arizona Asphalt versus the Bronx Bandoleros. A fascinating matchup. This is going to be a really interesting one to dive into. The Asphalt did enter the week 1-0 with the Bandoleros entering 0-1. Things got started good for the Bandoleros, putting up 92 points on the opening day, 27 from Burns and 28 from Leiter. That duo of number 2 overall picks showing out well for our friend in the Bronx. 21 points from Miguel Vargas on Monday. How about that for the Asphalt? The Asphalt would take the lead on Tuesday, scoring 61 points, 10 of those coming from Cam Smith, 25 in the Bronx, 11 coming from Ben Rice, who we'll talk about him later. Don't worry. But Wednesday, we saw our first 100-point showing. It was from Arizona, 22 points from Freddie Peralta and 23 from his former rotation mate, Jacob Mizorowski. Over on the other side, we saw 15 from Ben Rice again and 37 from Cam Schlittler. And his that contributed all in all to 73 points for the Bandoleros. On Thursday, we did see actually, as you all know, our first illegal lineup of the match period. It did end up taking away in total just about 7 points from the Asphalt, and we saw the Bandoleros put up what would have been a winning record on the day anyway. 28 points from Cole Reagan contributed to almost all of the 38 total points. But after their, evil, deceitful, rule-breaking day. No, I say that all as a heavy joke. Arizona came back big time on Friday, 121 points. Let me read off the list. Freddie Freeman had 11. Andy Pajes had 13. Eduardo Rodriguez had 30. And thank God for Jeffrey Springs with 33 points. 84 over on the other side for the Bandoleros. Rice again with 11. Aaron Judge with 15. And Will Warren with 22. That trio of Yankees carrying him on that day. On Saturday, we saw the second straight 100-plus performance from Arizona as they put up 109. Luis Garcia putting up 11 of those. Miguel Vargas again with 12. Also Freddie Freeman with that same number. And Andy Pajes with 14. Boy, Dodgers played pretty well. I wonder who they played this weekend. Jordan Walker potentially catching absolute lightning in a bottle here, put up 19 points for the Bandoleros. He was, of course, grabbed in the supplemental draft and has been fantastic in the Bronx to start the year. Jordan Romano and Abner Uribe, a couple of relief pitchers, each put up 10 points that contributed to the 74 total. It was looking like we might have a close finish as the Bandoleros did put up 111 points on that last day, but 76 would be enough for Arizona to close out their win. 11 points coming from Michael Garcia, another strong 28 points from Chase Burns over on the other side, but we do see the Asphalt move to 2-0 with the Bandoleros to 0-2 as the final score ended 549 to 497. 52 points separated the two of them, and of course, as you can imagine, just 3 shy of hitting 500. The Bandoleros did have the most points in a loss this week.
Yeah, a little bit of a adjustment to that final score. There were some last minute changes, I believe, for the scoring, so it did end up being 552 to 500 even. Still a 52-point difference regardless, but I did want to mention that because, like you mentioned, highest points in a loss. This is also the only matchup this week where both guys had 500 plus. So yeah, like we mentioned, just kind of a bit of a brutal showing. Well, not brutal showing, but a brutal outcome for the Bandoleros, doing everything in their power. And again, we were talking about the pitching staff. But I mean, when you get 300 points from your hitters, you can afford to not have as many with the starting pitching staff and with the pitching staff in general. Again, another case of pretty big discrepancy in terms of starts. 12 starts for the Bronx, only 9 starts for Arizona. About a 20 inning separation in terms of innings pitched. Almost doubling up the Bronx did in terms of strikeouts, 96 to 53. But the biggest thing was, of course, the earned runs allowed. 30 earned runs allowed for the Bronx to only 11 for the Arizona Asphalt. That might be one of the better. I know only 9 starts, but only allowing 11 earned runs from your entire pitching staff is pretty damn solid, all things considered.
Yeah, those -2s will hurt you.
Yeah, those -2s will get you. And then, I mean, just looking at everything else, 60 hits to only 31, 32 walks to only 16 for Arizona. So really just kind of getting doubled up, and 8 home runs allowed by the Bronx pitching staff to only 3 for Arizona. So That was really kind of the key difference. Obviously, the hitting staff really came in clutch for Arizona. Putting up over about 112 points more than the Bronx did. But pitching staff, as long as you're holding it down, you're not contributing negative points here. That's really all you can ask for, and that was the difference in this one.
Yeah. So I guess obviously this is sort of a hot topic early on. What do you make of the Bandoleros' slow start? They're obviously coming in 0-2 now after finishing second in the league in the regular season last year. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, I'm not going to put too much stock into it whatsoever. I think the Bandoleros are fine. It's just kind of a bit of an unfortunate start to the season in terms of matchups. Last week taking on the reigning champion Mike Copeland. I'm blanking on his name right now as far as what his team name is. But also, this week taking on the highest scoring, person or highest scoring team in the league this week. It's just a bit unfortunate, and they do have a lot of pitchers as well on their injured list as well. So I think once they get a little bit healthier, they still got Spencer Schwallenbach from Atlanta, Rusdar Gratterall, the relief pitcher from LA, is expected to be back sometime soon. Carlos Rodon, another Yankee. So I think, with time, they have a really solid staff here. They are definitely going to find water will level out as it always does. So I'm not too worried about the 0-2 start.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This team's going to be fine. For the record, they would have beat 10 of the other teams in the league had they been matched up against not the highest scorer. So a couple tough matchups, as you said. Another reason not to be too concerned. Their best batter for the week, Ben Rice, with 55 points, was our number one best batter. Chase Burns, also with 55 points, was our number 3 potent pitcher. So they had the high scores. This makes no sense when I see it, but it all kind of found its way out. Miguel Vargas with 45 and TG4JS with 33 on Asphalt side were the best batters and pitchers. All in all, I totally agree with you. No real need for concern in the Bronx. They have such a good team. And as you said, a lot of injuries coming back sooner rather than later. Just got a couple of tough rolls of the dice early on. And I think before we know it, we'll see JMC right back at the top of those standings.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think in this case, not to say that it was luck in terms, because, obviously, fantasy is always a little bit of luck, but I think just having such solid performances, you never really see that kind of consistency from the batters, and that's why we always say pitching is supreme, because, the pitchers can tend to be somewhat more consistent than some of the batters. These batters can go on hot streaks, they can go on cold streaks, and it's really hard to gauge them, but, almost 40 points from Freddie Freeman, like you mentioned, 45 from Miguel Vargas, 24 from Luis Garcia, 27 from Ellie, 43 from Andy Pajes, who's been on an absolute heater to start the year. I think he's batting around like 500 around there or something like that. Even 32 points from Cam Smith, and 34 points from Miguel Garcia. So, when you're just getting that kind of production from your bats on multiple players, that's a tough one, especially like I mentioned when the pitching staff is not losing you points. That's all we can really hope for.
Exactly. Well, speaking of weird matchups, we're going to slide down to maybe one of the weirdest I've ever seen. It was the Battle of Cleveland as the Cuyahoga Black Panthers took on the Fenton Melonheads. We saw Cuyahoga jump to an early lead on Monday, recording 77 points to 62 over on Fenton's side. Parker Messick tallied up 31 of those points for Cuyahoga, while Corbin Carroll tallied 18 over for the Melonheads. Just 21 points for Cuyahoga surrendered the league to 83 over on the Melonhead side, 15 of those coming from Yordan and 31 from Jose Soriano. Both teams had relatively big Wednesdays, scoring 82 and 79 points respectively. For the Black Panthers, we saw J-Ram put up 10, CJ Abrams put up 11, and 36 come from Kevin Gosman. Over on Fenton's side, 12 came from Drake Baldwin and 29 from Nick Pavetta. Fenton continued to hold their lead through Thursday, scoring 50 points to just 12 over on the other side. 20 of those 50 points came from Matt Olson, and 21 came from Robbie Ray. So most of the week done by the Brave and Giant, respectively. On Friday, things got extremely close, 86-89. C.J. Abrams again with 13 points and Framber with 31. Over on Fenton's side, we saw Lawrence Butler put up 15 and Joey Cantillo put up 20. On Saturday, Fenton continued to hold their lead despite losing the day by almost 30 points, 75-41. C.J. Abrams with another 12 for Cuyahoga. Don't worry, we'll be talking about him later. And a nice second start for Imai with 29. Randy Vasquez with 22 contributed to more than half of Fenton's points on that day. And we entered the day, of course, with Fenton leading. 18 points from Parker Messick contributed to a solid portion of the 83 total scored by Cuyahoga that did give them the lead going into Sunday Night Baseball. Now, so you all remember, Fenton had J.J. Weatherholt and they had Kenley Jansen. They needed either a save or probably a home run from Weatherholt. Neither of those did end up happening. Despite the 15 points from Baldwin and the 11 from Carroll, the thing that really hurts is the starting pitching. We can't get off starting pitching this episode because Chris Bassett put up minus 17 points on Sunday with just 3 points separating them at the end of the day, 438 to 435. Bassett's unfortunate start did make up for what ended up being Fenton's first loss of the season and the first win for Cuyahoga. Of course, this was the closest matchup, unsurprisingly, and it gets even a little more painful as we will touch on when we get to best batters.
Yeah, this one was, man, like we were talking about the pitching staffs, and with as close as a matchup as this was, we were talking about it in the last matchup. You just need your pitching staff, especially when you have, like Fenton did, 300 points total from your batters. You just need the pitching staff to not give you negative points and not take away. And unfortunately, like you mentioned with Chris Bassett, those negative 18, if you just don't start him, either of his starts, in his 2 starts, obviously took 2 losses, only 6.1 innings pitched in those 2 combined starts, 10 earned runs, 12 hits. I mean, it was just a brutal, brutal week for Chris Bassett. And ultimately, we never like to say that one player really contributed to a win or a loss, especially when the score is this close. But when the score is this close and you have that big negative 18 sitting you in the face, staring you in the face, I should say, it's really hard to not think that if you just don't start him, you have obviously the win. But yeah, just a rough week here for the Melonheads.
And to sort of double up on that, I don't even think we feel like he cost Fenton the win if that was on like Thursday, but the fact that it was on Sunday, like oh my God, it twists the knife a little bit more. Okay, so I need you to explain to me what the hell happened here. Count them with me, Ace. Not 1, not 2, but 3 different batters on Fenton's team ended up on the best batters list. I'll just hit it once for you all, because you don't need to hear that 3 times. Jordan with 51 points was ranked number 2. Matt Olson with 49 points was ranked number 4. And Drake Baldwin with 46 points was ranked number 5. We did have one more best batter in the matchup. C.J. Abrams with 51 was ranked number 3 on the list, and Parker Messick put up 50. But how in the world, with 3 of the best batters of the week, did we see Fenton fall to the Black Panthers? How did that happen?
It's just like I said, man. It's the pitching staff, and when they're contributing, the one thing you can't get from your pitching staff is negative points. It's fine if they may not be giving, like we mentioned, this is just gonna, again, broken record. Pitching staff is so important. Even like we mentioned, 300 points from the batters, 3 of the best bats, 2, 4, and 5 of the week. And still you find a way to lose. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. And like we mentioned, you never want to put it on one player, but fuck, Chris Bassett, man.
That really hurts, man.
That's just brutal.
He might be sent to the timeout chair in Fenton for next week. That is just absolutely brutal. Obviously, we will be looking for the Melonheads to kind of bounce back next week. A solid scoreline. We talked about all of this. We still believe that is a very good team. And a nice showing from Cuyahoga. Good for them to grab that first win early on. Obviously, this is the team that finished last in the standings last year, but Serial Chillers made a pretty concerted effort to make this team competitive this year. They were very intentional about not being like, all right, we're at the basement. Let's sort of start this whole process in a rebuild and try and move forward from there. And so to grab that first win is really nice to see. Let's slide down to our headliner for the week. It was the North Pole Natty Bows facing off against the Washington State Winners. 2 teams at 1-0. Only one will come out undefeated. I wonder who that could be. It was Washington State's first lead of the week, starting on Monday with 58 points. Just 16 scored over on North Pole's side. Mike Soroka scored 29 of those points for the Washington State Winners, although he wouldn't be on the team for another start. On Tuesday, North Pole Natty Bows said, hold my beer, 146 points. Boom! Seeger put up 11. Ryan O'Hearn put up 12. Logan Webb with 23. And Shohei with 34. You thought that was good? How about Wednesday? 178. 178 points from the Washington State Winners. You know what it means when I lean in close to the mic like that. What the hell? That's almost 200 points in 1 week. As I said in the Discord, he outscored multiple teams in what they had all of week 1 on just Wednesday. 11 from Correa, 19 from Christopher Sanchez, 23 from Matthew Liberatore, 31 from Matthew Boyd, 40 from Gavin Williams. Oh my goodness. Thursday was a quiet day. We can leave that one be. Just 1 and 14 points scored. But on Friday, we saw 70 from the North Pole Natty Bows, 12 of those coming from Shohei, and another 100 plus in Washington State with 113 Betts and Chase DeLauder both putting up 13 points each. Max Muncy, yes, that one with 15, and Brian Wu with 36. 69 points and a nice performance for North Pole on Saturday. 30 of those coming from Glasnow and 43 from Washington State, as Belly's 11 would help them hold the lead, and they did close things out on Sunday, putting up 86 points, just 10 shy of North Pole's mark from that day. Logan Webb's 25 would be solid, but Slade Sessione outdid him over on the other side with 31, as we did see the Washington State Winners move to 2-0, outscoring North Pole Natty Bows 538 to 466.
Oh, man. Zane, do I even say it again? I feel like at this point...
You're gonna talk about the batters, right? Because that's what is really important.
Yeah, I mean, dude, again, 328 points from Washington State is pitching staff to only 205 for Natty Bows. A very valiant effort, like we mentioned, 261 from the Natty Bows lineup, only 209 for the Washington lineup. But again, man, pretty even starts, all things considered, 9-8 for Natty Bows. So, the Bows even having an extra start under their belt. Mm-hmm. Even that 61 points from Shohei. It's still, man, it's just, and I know Shohei's a little bit of a, he's not exactly a pitcher, and he
outscored everyone else. It just,
right. Which he'll tend to do from time to time when he's like that. But I mean, it's just, again, look at the pitching staff side. And it obviously, it wouldn't have made up the points that, ultimately decided this game. But -17 from Brandon Little, -7 from Eric Miller over on Bo's side, -3 from Joe Ryan. Some guys that maybe you're not expecting to blow you out of the water. Maybe Joe Ryan a little bit. So him having negative after the week is kind of brutal. You're expecting kind of a bigger start from him. But, the other guys you're not expecting, -17 from a reliever is almost like drop territory.
Yeah.
Like if you're putting up -17, guy had 3 innings pitched, 2 losses, 7 earned runs allowed, gave up 2 homers and a blown save to top it off. I mean, that's just brutal.
That's tough. Yeah. I think a great insight into how good Mike's team is that his best batter was Cody Bellinger with 26 points.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a lot, but he had like 5 or 6 other guys all in the low 20s. His best pitcher was Gavin Williams with 40. What he's done to this pitching staff is unbelievable. Just a fun note too, if you wanted Mike to get better, Cole Young, who was on the bench the entire week, did put up 29 points. So he actually would have been the best batter for the week if Mike had started him. So I have a feeling, especially being a Mariner, that we'll probably see him in the starting lineup this coming week.
Yeah.
Over on Bo's side, 48 points from Logan Webb was his best pitcher, and 43 from Christian Walker. Again, keep an eye on Christian Walker. This is a guy who is the mark of consistency for years in Arizona, had an awful awful first year in Houston. We all kind of thought, oh my gosh, here we go again with the Houston, veteran first baseman. That's 2 weeks in a row that he's been North Pole's best batter. So if he continues to be that good, obviously that can be a real X factor for the team in kind of continuing to elevate them. But man, just unbelievable stuff from both teams. I mean, 146 and 178, the highest scoring days for each of them. Just crazy stuff. And yeah, definitely like a kind of a clash of the Titans here.
Yeah, also go fuck yourself, Kerry Carpenter.
Yeah.
Negative points for me on, what was it, 6 games, 7 games, and then in the 3 games post-trade, you put up 2.6, 10.7, and 9.5.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
How about that? That is...
All right, I needed to get that
What
out.
the
Sorry.
hell happened? Kerry Bonds hurting
man.
you one last time.
Jesus.
Ace, take that energy out. Tell us about the standings, my friend.
Yes. Oh man, this is the segment I was most looking forward to. So
make you
of
feel
course,
a little better.
so of course, just talked about him, Mike, the reigning champion. Shocker has taken the top spot once again at 2-0. One of the only 3 remaining undefeated teams. Myself, the Arizona Asphalt, climbing up 4 spots with the massive win today over the Bronx to put myself at 2-0 in second place, and my co-host Zang, the Portland Pioneers, not any movement, still top 3, however, moving to 2-0 as well to round out kind of that first portion of the league. And then we get into, it's going to be like this early on, a lot of the same colors. We have about 8 guys that are all 1-1 here, starting us off at 4th with the Fenton Melonheads. Bose rounding it up at 5th, rounding the top 5. The Capybaras with the biggest fall after starting off 1-0 and scoring the most points in the first week. They take a loss this week and drop to that 6th spot. Still in the playoffs, but they are this week's biggest faller. The Arctic Real Survivors moving into a playoff spot with a climbing 2 spots, at 7th, and that's kind of where the playoff line is. However, like we said, still very very early in the season. There's so much movement that's going to happen. This is not really anywhere to consider. But the Cuyahoga,
Yeah, I had to practice it like 180 times, so don't worry.
Cuyahoga Black Panthers also moving up 2 spots into that 8th position. The St. Petersburg Tropopologists, the biggest riser this week, 5 spots rising from the basement at 0-1, scoring the least amount of points in the week. They win this week, so of course they're now in the 9th spot. The Soul Sovereigns drop a couple spots after starting 1-0. They take the L this week to go to 1-1 at that 10th spot. Sault Ste. Marie Locks. They are another big faller, dropping 4 spots from a playoff spot. They were 7th last week. They do fall to the 11th spot this week. And then we get to the basement, rounding out our 0-2 teams. The Bronx Bandoleros at 0-2, dropping 1 spot. Like we mentioned, though, not too worried about them. The Valley Gift Lords dropping a spot. They're 0-2 as well. And the Rabid Coyotes dropping a spot as to round out the standings.
That's it. Yeah, and just a reminder for this league, it is actually only 6 playoff spots. Obviously, in football we had 7.
Oh, that's
over here
right.
It is just 6, so there's not that one bye week. So things are definitely snug. Obviously, 8 teams are missing the playoffs with
brutal.
So just those playoff spots are ever more valuable. Let's slide down quickly to the bench blunders, where we'll cover the guys who were left on the bench and scored the most points. Number 3, we had Ezekiel Tovar putting up 14 points on Monday for Cuyahoga. They had another Colorado Rocky and Mickey Moniak put up 15 points on the bench on Sunday. And then Willie Adamas did tally up 18 points on Tuesday for the Arizona Asphalt. Just a little note on that Cuyahoga Fenton matchup on how unbelievably bizarre this thing was. 3 points separated them. It would have been a hell of a lot more if either one of these guys had started. Let me say that again. For the arms side, where we saw Kyle Leahy put up 15 points on Sunday for Fenton, that would have gotten them the win. 26 from Sean Burke on Friday for the Valley Gift Lords. And then Rhett Lauder with 30 points on Saturday for Fenton. That would have gotten them the win too. Kyle Leahy is such a tough one. I think he is like a piggyback guy, so he wasn't listed as a starter, but he did basically take the major workload. Maybe he did start. I can't remember exactly if he started or if somebody opened for him and then he took the bulk there.
Is he White Sox?
No, he's on the Cardinals, so he played in Sunday.
Oh, Cardinals. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, just 2 starts there. Obviously, that would have gotten Fenton that win. Peach, I am so sorry, my friend. I promise we're not hammering on this to hurt you. Just I can't get over how bizarre that matchup was. 4 guys out of the 6 bench blunders came from that matchup, any of which would have made it either a more obvious easy win or have flipped the script. Sliding down to wasted waivers. Again, things a little different this time around. Our infielder for this week is going to be Mauricio Dubon. He does play in Atlanta. He's got shortstop, third base, and second base eligibility and put up 33 points this week. Kyle Isbell, who holds center field eligibility for Kansas City, put up 34.7. He's our outfielder for the week. Taylor Clark in Arizona is our relief pitcher, putting up 34.2. But the shining star of the show is Bryce Elder, Atlanta's starting pitcher, who put up 63.3 points. And those of you in the class who are keeping close track are correct. He would have been potent pitcher number 1 if he were rostered for the week. So I have a feeling we'll see a number of claims going in for him.
Yeah.
Speaking of claims, let me read these off quickly. We do have our Monday group and our Thursday group. On Monday, Tyler O'Neill for $6 went to the Sovereigns. Mike Soroka for $3 went to Washington State. Dylan Dingler for $3 went to Sault Ste. Marie. Bradley Rodriguez for $10 went to the Valley. Jordan Romano for $17 went to the Bronx Bandoleros. Joe Boyle in a big bid of $25 went to the Valley. TJ Rumfeld with $15 went to Washington State. Eric Lauer for $14 went to the Sovereigns. And Brenton Doyle for $9 went to Fenton. On Thursday, we saw just 8 transactions to the 9 on Monday. Jose Fernandez with $27 bid on him went to the Bronx Bandoleros after obviously that unbelievable first game in Arizona. Emerson Hancock certainly had a number of bids on him, but the $56 bid from the St. Petersburg Tropopologists would be the one that won out. 35 points for reliever Paul Sewald as he made his way over to the Valley. Lance McCullers with 12 for Sault Ste. Marie. Joey Weimer, who we mentioned earlier, $25 for the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes. Cooper Criswell, another $25 bid for the Valley Gift Lords. Liam Hicks went for $25 to the Arizona Asphalt. If you are a catcher first base type and you're on the Miami Marlins, you bet your ass you're playing in Arizona. And Tony Santillan with $20 did go to the Rabid Coyotes, shoring up their bullpen. Ace, what is one transaction here that you think we might be looking at down the line and saying, oh my God, in week 2, whoever grabbed this guy, how did he get him off waivers?
Yeah, it's definitely for me. It's going to be Emerson Hancock with the 56. Shocker, the biggest bid of the week, $56. This one is just a little bit extra salty for me because I put in a bid for him at $55. So fuck you. But yeah, he's definitely somebody I feel like, coming out of Seattle, they just breed pitchers, starting pitchers in particular out there. Back-to-back amazing starts in this past week. I feel like with a pitching staff that already is composed of Hunter Brown, although, like I said, just went to injury, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, I mean, just to name a few of the superstars on that roster. There's so many more, but I just had to go with a couple there because I can just read it all day long. I feel like, again, it's just the rich getting richer. It's going to be a fantastic pickup there for Flaming Prius. And, again, would not be shocked if, come the end of the year, he is, one of the top 10 pitchers in points, and we look back at it like, holy shit, this guy was a damn waiver.
How did he get there? Yep. Number 1 rule of podcasting is don't agree on everything, so I won't agree with you, even though I do agree with you. But Tony Santillan is actually a name I really, really like that Southwest Kansas got. He is a guy that is, I think, just going to get a ton of work in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th inning for Cincinnati. He was dropped, I think, to fit kind of a roster crunch, so it wasn't for performance reasons per se. And I do think, again, this is maybe not one that will be like, oh my God, what an unbelievable grab, but relief pitchers, as we talk about the pitching staff, like that does include these guys, and the points that they tally kind of on the daily are so valuable, so I think that's going to be a great grab for Oki. Our last segment before we get on to previewing, we will talk over some transactions. We did have 10 trades go down this week. Obviously, some elevated trading with the whole situation with the IL stashing and all of that. As always, whenever these rules come down, I like to take a moment on the podcast just to thank you all for your understanding. And it was just so like, as soon as I said kind of like, guys, I have no idea how to fix this, there were 7 people in the Discord like coming up with ideas and sending suggestions like that just it really makes my job better. It makes my job like something easier that I can do, and yeah, it makes it easier. And honestly, like it just makes me happy to be your commish that the group is all kind of working together like that. So thank you all again. Hopefully we will get a solution to those solid red flags soon. But let's talk about some trades. So Cuyahoga traded Noah Cameron, the Royals pitcher, and Clayton Beater over to the Real Survivors for Jose Altuve, Camilo Doval, and a 2028 second round pick. Cuyahoga then traded Elliot Ramos and Eduardo Rodriguez, along with my 2027 second round pick, over to the Arizona Asphalt for Ian Happ. The Valley Gift Lords did trade Luis Severino over to Cuyahoga for Chase Mydroth. Sault Ste. Marie sent Brandon Nimmo and Kevin Alvarez over to the Arctic for Sonny Gray and Josue Briceno. North Pole traded Bryson Stott in a 1-for-1 for Zach Littell over to Sault Ste. Marie. The Valley Gift Lords traded Colton Cowser to the Sault Ste. Marie Locks for Michael McGreevy, who's had a couple great starts in St. Louis. The Washington State Winners sent Mike Soroka over to the Asphalt for Kerry Carpenter, who, of course, we mentioned earlier, won't rub any salt in that wound. The Winners, of course, can't stop trading. They sent Carlos Correa and Josh Hader over to the Valley for Max Muncy, no, not that one, and Slade Sessione. The Real Survivors.
It's never going to get old.
It's my favorite joke.
Every time.
It really is. The Arctic did trade their 2027 third round pick and the Tropopologists 2028 fourth round pick to Southwest Kansas for Garrett Clevenger. And then our final trade of the week, Joinville Capybaras did send Brad Keller over to the Portland Pioneers for a 2028 fourth round pick and $5 in FAAB. What is a trade that jumps out to you? Something you want to talk about? Something that caught your eye?
Yeah, I think honestly, and this is like no bias here whatsoever, but I really the Ian Happ trade for Heliot Ramos, Eduardo Rodriguez, and a 2027 second. I wanted to bring it up just because I really was not keen at all on trading Ian Happ. As we were talking about kind of in the Discord earlier this week and a bit last week as well. The outfielders have, elite outfielders have kind of been far and few. It seems to be the biggest position of need for a majority of the teams. So I really was not keen on moving Ian Happ at all. But when I was presented with that package for him, I feel like I just couldn't say no. Eduardo Rodriguez has put together a couple of great starts. I feel like he can be a solid asset. I do get your 2027 second round pick. So obviously that one's not looking so great at the moment, but it is early.
Still a second, yeah.
Still a second as well, yeah. So that could be turned into something potentially. And I also did get an outfielder back in Heliot Ramos. Now he is not obviously putting up the numbers like Ian Happ has or is, but he is a very solid outfielder in my opinion. He is, usually batting in that top 3, usually in that 3 spot, so does get a lot of at-bats. So I just thought it was a really solid trade for me, and Ian Happ is a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. He had a bit of a rough day today, following it up with a homer after that, however, so kind of evened itself out. But what was it, 0-for-6 with like 6 strikeouts?
Yeah, I think so. It was really bad. He did end up, as you said, hit a homer, so that was good. But yeah, it was looking pretty grim for a second there.
so yeah, I think that's gonna be it might potentially be a trade we look back on, a couple years from now. Because the only reason I felt comfortable moving on from Ian Happ is because he is a little bit on the older side. He is pushing kind of into his mid-30s or so. So I didn't know how much more I was really going to get out of him. So I was pretty happy with that trade, all things considered.
Yeah, as with everyone in fantasy, you don't want to trade them until you get an offer that you're willing to trade them for, and I think that's kind of the case here. You certainly weren't looking to move out, but when you get an offer like that, as a Red Sox fan, it makes me so happy to see Eduardo Rodriguez pitching well again. I just love the guy. We love Eddie Aces. For me, it's Washington State with this Carlos Correa and Josh Hader trade. I have just mentally started treating Mike like the Rays, where every single time he makes a trade, I go, this was the one, guys. He finally lost a trade. How could he make that trade? And then Slade Sessione comes out and puts up 31 points in his first start. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, and Kerry Carpenter decides to wake the fuck up. Fuck you again.
You know? it's unbelievable. Damn it. It literally feels like he wins every single trade. Particularly on the pitching side, what he's done with pitchers has just been unbelievable. I do think it's a couple great gets for the Valley in Carlos Correa, who I have shared my thoughts about how good I think it is for him moving back to Houston, and Josh Hader, who's hurt right now, but obviously will be back sooner rather than later. So that is one that just jumped out to me. A couple of good guys, and Max Muncy, not that one, has done really well to start the year off. So great gets on both sides. And let's look at next week's notes. We will start off with the Soul Sovereigns going up against the Cuyahoga Black Panthers. Both of these teams at 1-1, looking to move a spot above 500 and knock their opponent a spot below 500. Southwest Kansas will take on the St. Petersburg Tropopologists. Southwest is looking for, Kansas, they're looking for their first win of the season. And St. Pete is looking to stay hot after that rough first week, but obviously a strong second one. Washington State will be taking on the Sault Ste. Marie Locks. With Washington State obviously looking to remain undefeated. The same is true for Portland, who will be taking on the Arctic Real Survivors in a little Boston versus New York matchup. And of course, the same is true for our fifth matchup as the Arizona Asphalt take on the North Pole Natty Bows. All three of those teams, the Washington State winners, Portland Pioneers, and Arizona Asphalt looking to move to 3-0 with their opponents, trying to thwart that and move a step above 500. The Bronx Bandoleros and the Valley Gift Lords are both teams that are 0-2. They're looking for their first win on the season. We are going to have one less team that is winless after next week. And our headlining matchup of the week, we do have the Fenton Melonheads going up against the Joinville Friendly Capybaras. A couple of teams that took pretty painful losses this week. Both put up really good performances and unfortunately lost just due to the matchup they were in. So I think both teams sitting at 1-1, we should see a pretty exciting matchup between those two. Ace, of course, other than our headliner, what is a matchup you're keeping an eye on this week?
Man, I feel like I'm going to have to go with the Bronx versus, oh my God, the Valley Gift Lords. Mm-hmm. I really do think, like we mentioned, I think this is the week that the Bronx bounces back. I just wanted to mention this as well. I wanted to bring it up in the standings, but I didn't get a chance to, but I'll bring it up now. The Bronx Bandoleros are currently hovering at 7th in terms of total points scored. They are, however, the team that has allowed the most points this year, and it's not even close. They are 100 points clear of the next start.
Oh my God.
They've allowed 871.3 points in 2 weeks. Bose is second with 764. Oh. So it truly, and for what it's worth as well, Bose is 1-1 and he has put up 738 as well. Yep. So it's just crazy. And I know I'm not really talking about Bose here, but I wanted to bring it up because the Valley Gift Lords have only put up about 557 so far. So about 150 points clear for the Bronx in that regard. But they've only allowed 698, almost 200 points less allowed. Mm-hmm. They are both 0-2, like you mentioned. So one of these guys is going to find a win here. And so we'll see who it'll be. I'm going to put my money on Bronx. Sorry, Valley. But I just think it's going to be a really interesting matchup to kind of see are we going to see water find its level, or is the Bronx going to continue getting absolutely just screwed over by matchups.
Yeah. One I'm keeping an eye on is actually your matchup, the Arizona Asphalt versus the North Pole Natty Bows. Obviously, with you sitting at 2-0, we know what a dominant team North Pole was last year. I'm just interested to see what this one looks like as kind of a shadow headliner of you, if you will. Obviously, two really great teams who have both put up two very good weeks. North Pole, of course, losing out to Mike this past week. So I think that should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I we'll see how long. I truly, not even gonna lie, did not expect to start 2-0. Both weeks had looked kind of dire going into the weekend, and my team has just kind of found a way to kind of pull it, from the jaws of defeat, when I least expect it. So, I'm very, hoping to keep the train running. I do want to mention, however, since we were talking about the total points scored and whatnot, in terms of points allowed, I am 2-0. However, I am also top 4 in terms of points allowed. I've allowed 736. So I've had some really solid matchups, and I've still found a way to kind of come through and win. I've only put up 791. That is good for second in the league. So the offense is definitely carrying. So I'm very excited to see, if my opponent, if he has a massive day, can I match it, or is this going to be, kind of a low scoring affair that I'm going to kind of squeak by?
Should be interesting. Yeah. One other thing to keep in mind just for this coming week, the third week is typically around the time where we start seeing more guys hit 2 different starts in the week. Obviously, nobody gets 2 starts in a week because that first week is just a half week. And with all of the off days built in early on for teams' home openers, it's relatively rare to see guys get 2 starts in a week. I think we only saw maybe 5 or 6 guys get it this week. Coming into this next week, we are going to see a lot of people get those 2 starts. So just another thing to keep in mind, maybe some people whose pitching staffs had some trouble. If you double up and those consistent guys are putting out 25 points together, hey, that's a 50-point start all of a sudden. And we also might see those teams with, the uber talented guys kind of escalate even further. But we will get a chance to recap that all with you next week. Thanks for joining us. It was so good to be back, the 2 of us together. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.
Oh, dude, I'm so happy to be back. A shame that Riverside just did not want us to be together for the opening day for the pod. But I am back, barring it absolutely shitting the bed again. I should be pretty consistent, as long as it doesn't decide to randomly shut down on a Sunday.
Yeah. and we got a little delayed gratification. Good thing comes to those who wait. So Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.
You know what that makes you, Larry? Lollygaggers. Lollygaggers.